So thank you, everyone that's listening. I'm so excited about today's guest, Sandy Ingham. She is a spirit artist, and we are going to get into so many different conversations around her work and everything that's been uncovered over the years for you, Sandy. And thank you so much for taking the time to be here, all the way from England, right? I forget what part you're from.
Cornwall.
Cornwall, perfect. I was just in the Cotswolds and London area last summer and just love England so much.
Oh, it's beautiful.
It really is. So thank you for taking the time to be here today. And I first want to start with asking you, have you always been an artist?
No, I'm still not an artist. I'm a trance artist. I personally can't draw at all.
Yes.
Leo comes in and he does it.
I would love to hear more about this, about Leo. I know we talked years ago when you came into my mediumship membership, and you shared a little bit about Leo and the way that you work. And there's so many little stories that I remember, but I would love our podcast listeners to hear about this whole process. So, can you tell me how many years ago you started with trance spirit artist work?
When I was 60
Okay.
and I'm 77.
Wow.
So a long time.
Yes.
From nowhere, from
From
nothing.
nowhere.
He
That's
just
what
picked
I was.
up a pencil and started drawing.
Okay. So you had a pencil with you and did you even know that you were going to start using the notepad?
It wasn't like that. I used to take my mail into the lounge and I would go in to watch my favorite soap. But I never got to see it because the moment the music came up, I went off. I drifted into a trance state, and the next thing I knew was the music was coming up again, the program was over, and I couldn't remember a thing.
Wow.
But I would take also my mail with me and deal with that. I always saved empty envelopes and bits of paper to recycle, and those would be put away from the mail. At the end of the evening, my husband would collect up all the bits, and he noted that there was maybe an eye or a mouth or a nose or an ear on the bits of paper,
Wow.
and it and this went on for weeks without my knowledge.
And have you found over time with the readings that you've done since you started to do the spirit art, have you noticed things change over time throughout the years of you giving readings?
My mediumship certainly gone up several notches.
Yeah.
Um, Names are routinely given. I do not command or demand of them. When I do a reading, I speak whatever they show me or tell me. I work predominantly telepathically with them. So they put the words into my thoughts and I bring them out of my mouth. And they're
Yes.
always very, very, very meaningful.
And
Mm.
I would love there's some audience members that are mediums themselves, and other people are brand new to
Yeah.
mediumship. They might be going through grief and they don't know what a trance spirit artist is. So I would love for you to share a little bit about what that means to you and who Leo is to you.
Okay, for me, I quite literally sit down. I could take a deep breath, say, okay, ready when you are, Leo. And I will step aside. For the first several years, I had no idea of what was happening to me. I wasn't aware of what I was doing. And even now, I step far enough back not to interfere with him when he's using my hands, which he'll use when I do a stage show. Um, he'll use two hands at once and draw two people. I literally step aside, he comes in, and he just gets on with the art at the end of the show. And I call it show because my work is visual. The people will come up and collect the portraits, which are given to them, gifted to them, and then I will have to say, you know, I wasn't able to be aware of what was happening. So, and then they'll start talking. You know, the person I've drawn will start talking to them, uh,
Hmm.
chatting about what they were doing last night and things like that. So,
And with that, when they're talking and you're getting information or they're coming, Leo is using your hands. Are
mm,
you forgetting what's happening in that moment when you are drawing?
yes, I've not much awareness because Leo is in total control. Leo, by the way, and you need really to show an example of his work
Yes,
to
I'm going to
validate who he
definitely do
is.
that.
Um, he, it's almost as if the paintings talk to you. The guide paintings I do, which he decided to do after maybe 6, 7 years of our working, doing entirely and consistently, drawing family members of the audience, you know.
Yes.
And he will still do this. Sometimes I will be relaxing at night, and he will pick up anything. I generally keep a pad not too far away, and he will pick up the pad and he will rattle a picture off, and I will post it on my group page. I have like a gallery group,
Hmm.
appreciation group, and I post it on there. And within a short time, somebody's coming back and saying, "That's my mother. That's my father. That's my husband. That's my what, whosoever." And,
Yes.
and then they get a few words from them. I don't do podcasts or live anythings like for myself, but I do an
Right.
awful lot of interviews like this.
Well, and I know that you have your documentary that you're a part of too that you mentioned. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Well, yes, I. It was strange. Leo kept saying to me that he needed to speak to this particular man, and I heard of him because he's extremely famous, but or should I say, well known. And I said, I don't know how to connect with him. I don't know what to
Yes.
do to connect with him, to speak to him. And another day later, and he's saying, we need to talk to, I'll call him David because that's his name.
Hmm.
We need to speak to David. And I said, well, then you'll have to make it happen. And then this was really towards the end of the pandemic.
Hmm. Right.
Sorry, I
No,
cannot avoid being myself.
right.
So it was the first time I'd been contacted, asked to do a live show
Yes.
after that period where no one traveled anywhere
Right.
because he lives on a little island off the mainland. So
Oh, that's so
anyway, I got
beautiful.
a call asking me if I would do a live show on this little island. And it turns out that David lived 3 minutes away from the door.
Wow. Three
So
minutes away.
he came and collected me from my hotel, and we went out for dinner. And, you know, I read for him, I demonstrated for him the art, and drew someone he knew very well. And so it became a TV documentary because this man has a TV station. Hmm.
Amazing. It's interesting how the spirit world will set things up when we
Oh,
least expect
absolutely.
it and
Always, always.
help things happen in our lives, and that's a perfect example of not
Mhm.
knowing how it's going to happen, but it really uncovering what it was supposed to.
I just do whatever comes up.
Yes.
In fact, I'm doing a rather big show in Ireland. I fly out on Thursday,
Wow.
and
Awesome.
to do this demonstration and talk about my experience. And yes, again, Leo made that happen. Leo, by the way, I should tell you, is Leonardo da Vinci.
I think that you shared that a few years ago with me. I'm so glad that you're sharing it in this group so that
That
other people know.
I ordinarily don't talk about him as Da Vinci because when we very first started doing this work, we had a chat because I know what people can be like.
Hmm.
I'm an unknown. He threw me at the stage, and then he threw me onto a cruise to work in the Caribbean. And then he just pushed me out on the stage, and that was it. I hit the ground running and
Wow.
was invited then all over the world. We had a chat about this because I knew that if I hit the ground as an unknown,
Hmm.
even though the art is excellent, I knew that they would tear me to shreds.
Yeah.
And I probably would be a little, yeah, right,
Mm.
myself. So we agreed that I would just call him Leo and
Yes.
never mention the fact that he's Da Vinci.
Mm.
And some 6, 7 years on, I was being interviewed by one of the glossy magazines, and the inevitable question came up: do you know who this artist is? Because I would never tell anyone. I would
Right.
answer in the same way every time. Well, it really doesn't matter who it is, does it? The fact is, he's drawing people's families routinely, consistently, accurately.
Yes.
And then I would sidestep the question. So it was that way until this magazine interviewed me, and she asked the inevitable question: do you know who this artist is? And I was taking breath to say, well, it doesn't really matter. And when Leo very clearly said, own me,
Wow. And
oh no.
that's when you shared.
Well, I stopped breathing, sent back to him, they'll kill me, they'll
Mm.
crucify me. He said, trust me, own me.
Yeah.
So I said, well, yes, I do actually. He's Leonardo da Vinci.
And
Trying
it
to,
came out.
she heard it.
Yes. Well,
And
and it's once you put it out there, it's like there's no going back, and there's a
oh,
reason that that came out.
it flashed across the world, and not a single person came back with any derisive words at all. Not
Yeah.
one. But
Wow.
again, people wanted to speak to him. They wanted to know a bit more about his personal life, which obviously I've been with him 77 years, and I know everything there is to know about him pretty much. Some I
Amazing.
don't share, but a lot that I do. I
Yes.
was at his home probably 2 or 3 years ago, where he passed away in France, because he could not be in his own country when he passed. He was
He,
just welcome there.
and I didn't know much about him, but this is very interesting where you know another side to things too, and you
I
could
know,
feel his presence.
yes. He was gay, you see, as we put it.
Hmm.
In Leo's words, they didn't call it gay. So there was a death sentence put on him for being of an immoral nature. And so he fled. So he actually spent the last 3, 4 years of his life in France and passed away there.
Oh my,
Yeah, yeah, he wanted me go to his home, and because I was flying about all over the place, it must have been well over a year, if not getting towards 2 before I actually got there.
yes. And
And
it's, what were
sorry,
you going to say?
I was going to say it was by fluke that I got
Hmm.
there that time, because one of the places, the events I was doing a week's work in, had to cancel because the host had a heart attack. And so it left me with a week and no calls on my time. So my husband, who is also my manager, said, right, let's drive down to France. Let's go to the chateau and fulfill our promise to Leo.
And you went.
We did, and it was an amazing, amazing situation. And book 2 was being written at the time, my second book.
Hmm.
And I wanted to get some shots of his home. Now, I knew that he's buried there in France, and I wanted to get across the barriers and sit at the head of his grave, whilst my husband leapt across the barriers at the bottom and got a shot of me knelt beside his grave. So the moment I entered the courtyard of the chateau, Leo met me. I felt him. He was matching my step. I could feel his body. I could feel him talking to me. It was the most incredible experience of my life to date. And there have been
Wow.
a lot more. But we weren't sure where the burial was, where the grave was. And he walked us right to it. So I had arranged with Michael to have the camera ready
Yeah.
because we would have to leap over the barriers and act very quickly before the guards threw us out.
So you made it in time?
And guess what happened? We walked in, the guard walked out, as did most of the people in there. So
That's
we
very
were
interesting.
absolutely, so we were comfortably able to get our shots. The same happened in every other room, his bedroom, his studio, everywhere that I needed to get over the barriers. And I wanted to kneel beside his bed. I didn't touch anything. I'm not stupid like that, damage anything. But it did not hurt that I knelt beside his bed for a minute. So guards walked out as we walked in. We got our shots and we're unmolested throughout.
Oh my gosh. Now I am gonna definitely have to look up your book. You said you have two books?
Yes, the mediumship and psychic art, they called it then, of Sandy Ingham. That was the first, ghost written by someone else, as were both of my books. And the second one is Drawing on the Past, as in PASSED.
Okay. That's amazing. I
Yeah.
can't wait to look at your books and to read your books. I have a question. I know we talked about this years ago, when I interviewed you for Mediumship Mastery Circle, but I would love other people to listen to this. And it's all about the story when you were in the car
Oh,
and you were drawing, or you were in a trance drawing, and something happened in that car. Can you fill us in
oh,
a
I
little bit of?
absolutely will, because it's a fascinating story.
Yes.
The It was actually being filmed for another documentary to take place in America, but my agent and friend actually passed away, I think, last year. So the the filming never was finished and the documentary never made. However, whilst he was in England, came over to see me here. He saw me whilst my husband was driving. I sat and did the portraits. I drew the portraits, and he wondered how I could possibly do that in a fast-moving car when I actually couldn't even address the envelope myself. But Leo, in charge, he drew portraits, perfect portraits. And he's seen this. So, whilst in America, Manhattan, in fact, no, Long Island for this particular situation, um, he wanted to get footage of that happening, me drawing in a fast moving car. So he set himself up in the passenger side, and the driver took us to a 4 lane road, whatever you call them in your country, and he was jammed in getting the footage, and my colleague was driving. But what happened when I was in the midst of that, um, drawing that phase, someone had a blowout of their car tire, and instead of pulling into the left, he cut right across the traffic. So the driver was literally standing on the brakes, fast moving, remember, standing on the brakes. The cameraman was jammed in the chair, holding, so he got the camera in this hand and he was holding onto the car and being thrown about. The camera didn't move, and neither did my body in the back.
Wow. That
And
is amazing.
what was amazing was I drew this young lady, probably a teenage girl, I think. Hard to remember quite her age at this time. It's a while ago. And the first show I did with my host that night was also being filmed. And it came about that Leo said to me when it came to the interval, put the picture that we drew in the car that day under the camera and invite anyone who recognizes the girl to come and have a word. Not so much with me, because when I come out for the interval, I don't really fully come back into this space. I stay, just release myself a little from him to give my brain a rest, if you like.
Right.
And the young lady came up. I'd given a name, and I had said also when I put the picture under the camera, that the girl's name was Susie, and that this picture was for her mother's birthday. And this lady came up in the interval after and said, "That is Susie. She is my sister, was my sister, and it's my mother's birthday tomorrow."
Oh my gosh, that gives me goosebumps.
So
So
I
she was
obviously,
there.
yeah, she was there. So obviously, I had to say, go over and talk to, uh, Joseph, give him your details, and so that it would be included in the documentary that sadly never happened. Mm.
Wow. These types of stories just confirm how much beauty takes place without us even knowing how it's going to happen when we just
Absolutely,
allow the spirit realm to come through and guide us during this process.
absolutely.
I have a question around that. I know when we spoke years ago, before the world got crazy, that's how I word it now. Um,
Mhm.
we spoke about you teaching spirit art. I think you did it in person at
I
that
did.
point.
Well, Leo did. Yeah.
Leo was part of that. Can you tell us a little bit about that process and how Leo teaches people to do this spirit art? It's something that I've always been intrigued with, always wanted to learn. I know there's other mediums that are interested in this. So how would
Absolutely.
you teach that, or how does Leo teach?
Well, first of all, we requested that the students draw a face, however they perceived a face to me. I asked them to sign it. We collected them in and we put them to one side. And then Leo would come in and he would literally draw the proportions of the face, tell a few little things about the body and its proportions. Like, how can I say, the span of your arms at full stretch is your height,
Hmm.
and the hand from here to the tallest finger, when you put it on the chin, is exactly the size of your face to the hairline.
Oh, that's interesting.
And the the face proportions are exactly 5 spaces between the edge of your face to here to the eye shape, and eye shape in between, all the same size, these 5 spaces across the face. And he would teach that. And then he would start maybe by drawing the eye in great detail. And if you've seen my work, you'll know just how detailed that
Oh,
is.
yes. It feels like you're looking
Oh, they're
at a
looking.
live eye in front of you.
I have one of the guide paintings here now, which is it's one that's really sort of pulled my heart in, and he's looking at you. But more than that, he's painted in such a way that if you let your eyes relax while looking at him, he his facial color changes. So he becomes a black man. He becomes a Native American Indian with the redder tones. He becomes Japanese or Chinese with the paler colors. Just and all of that changes while you look at him. And then the background glows and he moves. He moves.
Through the eyes, through
Yeah,
while looking at his eyes.
yes. He
It,
moves.
it's interesting that you share that because I know with the spirit realm, sometimes we could see outside of ourselves. If you're in a public place and you happen to look over at someone, it's almost like there's an overlay of a loved one on top of someone else, a stranger's face that looks like that person. Does it feel very similar in that way, where your
Um,
eyes will see something, um, see
everyone
see it in a
everyone
different way?
sees what I'm saying, they say. And he some people will say he looks exactly like my son in the 60s. Um, and other people will say it looks like Jesus.
Mm.
Other people will, everybody looks at an image and sees different things in
And
it.
I think I knew the photo that you were talking about. You shared it on Facebook, and I thought it looked like Jesus too. It
Yes,
in the his eyes are so alive
they are.
that you can't even comprehend how they can look like that. And I'd love to share that on the screen for other people to see too.
You want to see it now or you have it?
Oh, if you have it with you, I would love to see it. I was going to put it up at the end, but this is perfect.
Can you
You can
see
see
that?
it. Yes.
Sorry about the reflection, but if you allow
No,
your eyes to relax,
it's beautiful.
it really is. And as you say, the eyes are alive. And
Yes.
he means a very great deal to me. Um, I don't know. I have my own personal feelings about him, and I mean, I'm a totally non-religious person. As a medium, you cannot be religious. You cannot tie yourself to a label because certainly for me, I work globally to many different cultures, colors, belief systems, and I cannot override their belief system with mine. But like Leo, he greatly disliked religion, but
Mm.
they sentenced him to death, so he wasn't going to like them, was he?
Right. Exactly.
Mm.
It's interesting that that picture came out too. And when, how long did that take you? That's what I wanted other people to hear. How long these photos take you or take Leo to come through and draw through you?
Sometimes he'll be on them for many, many hours. Did you see the detail
Yes.
of them? You know, that isn't done in 5 minutes.
No.
And he has a very specific uh, paper that he likes to use, a very specific colors types that he likes to use. He loves to use the pan pastels,
Mm.
the most expensive you can buy, I think.
Right.
So, and he will only use one type of pencil, the black one, you know, for when I'm on stage doing it. We do it only in charcoal. Well, it's
Mm.
carbon. It's that point at which the 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 wood, if you like, becomes able to draw with.
Yes.
It's quite a process to create charcoal, actually. So it's softer. And
Hmm.
only one company makes it, and they're in Germany. So sometimes it's difficult to get the pencils that he likes. However, they arrive.
Yes. And then you
So
use them and how many drawings do you think that you've created with Leo?
thousands, thousands.
Thousands.
Yeah. When I do a live show, I can draw between anything between 8 and 15 portraits in the evening.
That's a lot of
It is.
portraits.
It is. And I've done a lot of shows. When I did my tour of Australia, for instance, the first one, well, consecutive shows I've done around Australia because I've been back many times. Um, I count them all up. The hundreds and hundreds in one tour.
Wow.
Uh, so there must be thousands
What
overall.
what would you recommend to people that are wanting to let go a little bit more, mediums that want to let go a little more to experience that trance art? I know not everyone is doing that right now, but is there anything that you can relay to mediums that are listening if they're wanting to really
Stop
look into
trying.
this?
Stop trying. Pick
Okay.
up a pencil. Don't even think about it. Set pencil to paper and just let your mind flow through your fingers.
Mm,
If
beautiful.
you can just remove yourself from what you're doing, it just happens. It does for me. And
Hmm.
I said, you know, when I started a show, I would draw two different people at the same time, or at least he would, because Leo was left handed. I am right.
That's
So
very interesting.
it is. So we've been doing two at a time. But then, not so many years ago, 2019, the end of, I had an accident which smashed my humerus into several pieces. So this arm is now 2 inches shorter than the other.
Wow.
So the balance for him to use my hands is impeded. We have done it, but it doesn't flow quite as well as it used to because of the balance of my arm. Mm.
Right.
But there is one thing I will say. When I do a stage show, I only ever use the carbon pencil, which is black. And he started to experiment with this. So he made me tell the audience that to look out for precipitated color.
Hmm.
And in front of a huge sellout crowd, actually, I was drawing this little girl, and she was known in life to have these lovely clear blue eyes. And as I'm drawing it with a black pencil, as we are drawing it with a black pencil, the eyes did in fact turn blue. And
Really?
and then the skin tones. It's on my website. The film. It's only about a minute of the shot because
Yeah.
obviously there's a lot on my website.
Yeah.
But you can find that and actually see him do it and see it happening.
That is
Mm.
amazing. Miracles before everyone's eyes. I'm sure people could feel that in the room too
Oh,
when it
they
was
did.
happening.
They did. It was amazing. Oh, and I
Yeah.
must tell you about one of my visits. Are we okay for time?
Yes. Yes,
Okay.
I'd love to hear that.
It was in America and a place called the Eyes of Learning. Um,
Okay.
I think it was Long Island. I'm not sure. I've
Mhm.
been to so many places, they just disappear into one.
Right.
Um, they asked me to introduce myself. So I'm stood at the head of three, I don't know what to call them, three sets of seats with aisles up both sides and
Mhm.
down the outer. And I stood there, telling people what to expect from me and what have you. And to my left, a helium balloon detached itself from the ceiling.
Wow.
And it came down, and at the end of the row, it turned sharp left, maintaining a height of about 4 feet. And it came across the front of the audience and it stopped in front of me, and the balloon put itself in my hand.
Oh my gosh.
And
I have goosebumps.
I looked down, I said, we have a child with us.
And you
Uh,
knew it.
I thought, yes, I could see the little boy. And his granddad, his mother's father, had recently passed, I believe. And he was drawn with the boy later on in the show. So I think it was his aunt that was in the audience. And she was gifted the picture and the balloon to take home to the little boy's mum.
Oh my gosh.
Mm.
That is a miracle. That story, you know that everyone in that audience, their lives
Oh,
were
they
changed
saw it.
just watching it.
They saw it. Everyone saw it. Yeah, and they were
Beautiful.
all shouting. Some were saying, "Oh, Spirit Rock!" You know,
Right. Right.
absolutely. So it
Beautiful.
was lovely, a lovely experience.
I
Pity
love,
his wasn't there.
what was that?
Pity his mother wasn't there at the
Right.
show.
I
Mm.
know. I know. Well, and it's one of those things that sometimes the timing of these moments that come up and
Yeah.
the people that witness it, they're supposed to be sitting in that chair. And that is such a beautiful miracle that took place. I would love for more people to experience this. I know that you do spirit art for others. So, can you tell us where people can go to get information and how the process works if they want?
Well,
Um,
if you wanted to book a guide painting, not unlike that, obviously different people, many different people, you would go to my website, which is www.sandyingham.co.uk, and you would book on there. And you quite literally tap on book a guide painting, and you can book it on the site, paying by PayPal or directly into my bank. But for international ones, it really needs to go through the PayPal. And
yes.
you don't have to have PayPal to do it. You can still pay it through there. And then, though I'm afraid there's a bit of a lengthy wait due to the fact that they're very detailed paintings. And
Yes,
of
I'm
course,
sure.
I'm doing readings internationally, so most days, and I do like the UK ones in my morning and the European ones around lunchtime up till about 3, and then the international ones from 3 p.m. Onwards. So, so that mostly the paintings get done in the evening.
Hmm.
So that there's a lengthy wait, maybe 6, 8 weeks before you would get the painting. But it's well worth the wait, believe you me,
Yes.
it
Oh my
is.
gosh, your work and Leo's work is so beautiful. It definitely is worth the wait. Um, I'm so thankful for your time and your energy today. I know how busy you are, and I'm so grateful that you could share this with us today. And I have one last question that I ask all of my guests. The question I have for you is, if today was your last day, what would you like to be remembered for?
Oh gosh, for the love I feel for people, for the
Beautiful.
love, and for the sharing of I would call it a gift, but Leo doesn't like me doing that. When I've said to him in the past, I'm so honored to have this gift. He said, gift? I've been working with you for 50, 60, 70 years in order to achieve this level of expertise.
Oh my
So,
gosh.
so I don't call it a gift anymore. And anyway, it isn't me, it's Leo. They're the same when I do readings. I don't really do anything except repeat the words of people's families from upstairs. You know, I say the spirit world is upstairs. It's nicer
Yes.
than dead. I don't use that word.
Right.
No one
I like
dies.
the sound of that.
And I love working for mediums because, like most of us, we don't get readings for ourselves,
It's true.
you know. So I love working with mediums and enabling their families and friends to come through. Hmm.
Sandy, I appreciate you so much. Thank you for being on
Thank
today.
you. It's good of you to invite me. It's been a pleasure.
We hope you enjoyed this episode as much as we did. If you liked it, leave a 5-star review on iTunes, and remember, subscribe to our YouTube channel too.
If you can think of anyone else that would love this episode, share it with them right now on social media or email. And remember, getting results is a process of learning, applying, and reflecting. Stay consistent and continue to grow every day.